What kind of food do you eat? You say soul food? Was that the food of African people? Slave food. The food that we find most satisfying. The food that we find that sticks to our ribs. The food that we call down home. A food that we learn to eat in the quarters. And yet we dare say that we have escaped slavery. That we have nothing to do with those people back there. That was back there. When our whole very social life and social relationships, our very definition of ourselves as a people, our very attempt to commune with ourselves is mediated by the food of slaves. We have not escaped it at all, but it is time for us to change the slave consciousness.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Good morning. What happened to Jeff? Oh, there you go. Hold on. There she goes. There you go, Ruby. There you go.
Peace.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
And good morning, everybody that's in the room on Facebook. I want to welcome everybody to Health and Wellness Saturday, where we discuss health and wellness in our communities and what it means to be healthy and well, whether it's physical or your mental and your state of being. So I'd like to welcome Ruby, Douglas, Geoff, and this morning we will be discussing with everything that's going on. Everything that's going on with the COVID, and then we're watching that farmers are dumping their fruits and vegetables and milk, and it shows a need for community gardens. It was always a need, but I think now there's a lot of food deserts and a lot of food lines. But as always, the inner cities and the distressed communities get hit harder. And I just want to, I'm going to start with Ruby. Community gardens for people, that might not understand the concept of a community garden, because there are some people that don't. We can't assume that everybody do. Ruby, give us an understanding of what is a community garden.
I mean, the title pretty much explains what it is. It's a garden that is tended by a community. And it's simply as that. It can be, the space can be any space that you designate within a town, a city, a village. But it's a collective action. It's a group of people that come together to grow plants.
Okay, great. Douglas?
To add to that?
Yeah.
I would say too that there isn't, the focus of it isn't to be selling food. I think that for me is a clear thing that distinguishes community gardens from maybe a more like a farm or something else, but that the main focus of a community garden is to be growing food for oneself, one's family, one's community, outside of kind of the money and trying to make money from it, but it's for sustenance and food and medicine.
All right. I like to say, Dr. Bob is here. He is in, but because the limit of videos, Dr. Bob is here in audio. Good morning, Dr. Bob. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, can't hear you in the audio either, Dr. Bob. Jeff, while Bob is getting that audio set up, I mean, Jeff, you've been talking in the city of Mount Vernon. You've been talking about community gardens and the need for community gardens in Mount Vernon. You have been you've been an advocate for it as long as I've known you. Just give me an outline on why are you fighting as that hard fight for Mount Vernon and cities like Mount Vernon. Uh-oh. Wait a minute, Jeff. Oh, wait, hold on. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I want to say first that I want to thank you for having us on. This is a good opportunity and a long overdue, at least a segue into the next phase of how we're going to manage our communities. So to answer your question, I've been involved in various organizations, or in the New York City area for most of the almost 30 years I've been here. And one of the most impactful organizations I was involved with in the 90s was the Black Panther Collective. At the time, most of our operations in New York City were covering the Giuliani era, really defending the community from the Giuliani era, fascist practices in the community. And we used to do other organizing with other organizations that really upheld the Black Panther tradition and the old Marcus Garvey traditions of self-reliance and interdependence in the Black community. So one thing I became aware of was one of the primary reasons for our dependence on white supremacy capitalism, and that's basically every aspect of self-sustenance in our community, from food to shelter to self-defense. I've never been a student or very well read on growing and urban strategies, but it became much more obvious to me in the early, like somewhere around the 2000s, or after 9/11, that most of our communities, and of course, we've had leadership that have made it clear that our communities are so dependent, onto the level of prison inmate type of relationship with the power structure around us, that really most of the genocidal behaviors that the system is accountable for can be laid bare in these crises, right? 9/11 was a good example. They basically rewrote elements of the Constitution to take away some of our rights. This COVID-19 situation has laid bare more contradictions and more dependence of Black communities and colonized communities in particular to the larger capitalist construct. And that lays bare the obvious lack of self-sustenance when it comes to food. So, in some anticipation of this, I began speaking to it without even knowing some of the solutions. I didn't meet Ruby and Doug until recently, in the last maybe 4-5 years, I think. And when I knew that some of this expertise, and I should also I don't want to neglect to mention Barry Crumley, who I don't know if he's listening, but he's been another example of consistency and expertise in our community that makes the potential for our self-sustenance that much more possible. Because we don't see people like this in our community, and we don't understand that it's possible to actually grow our levels of knowledge and our practical lifestyle and our practical expectation of society and social norms, right? Doug and Ruby are two examples as organizers and experts in earth-based sciences that I've always admired as people who could help grow our knowledge base. Of course, as far as I'm concerned, that's, as hard as their work is and deep as their expertise is, that's the easy part. For me, the hard part is trying to get the social norms changed among our people. Mm-hmm. I think our actual, you've spoken eloquently to our dietary deficits as a group, as Black and colonized people in this country. Most of that is systemic. You know, a lot of people like to throw it on the person and blame people for their behaviors. But while I think that's an appropriate observation, I think it can't go without the systemic causes for our behaviors. Whether it's diet, violence, you know, other cultural backwardness, you know, African people carrying European practices on their shoulders. So I just see that this need to reinvent ourselves has always existed, but it usually takes some kind of crisis to make it clear as to how and why.
Right. Yeah, man, you're on point. Bob, Dr. Bob, are you there by audio? No, you still, hold on. Let me see. No, it says your audio is on. So we're gonna work that out with you, Bob. I see your mouth moving, but I don't hear you. Okay. So Ruby, how do we, if somebody wants to start a community garden, and Doug, you could, and they live in a apartment, right? They don't have a piece of property. They're not one of these wealthy people that own different lots. So how does the average person that cares for their community, and they're listening to us right now, and they say, you know, we want to start a community garden. What will be the process, the beginning process? I'm gonna start with Ruby, and then we're gonna go to Doug.
So I'll outline the process that I've followed, which is because I don't have private land either,
Right.
or extensive amount of funds to buy a lot. So what I've done in the past is I've canvassed my neighborhood. And in neighborhoods of color, there are always empty spaces. I'm not sure why, but you will always find an empty lot. There's always a space, whether it's even in a park. You've got to walk your neighborhood, and you will see, if you walk your neighborhood enough times, your eyes will just adjust and you will see opportunity. It's always there. Just like Jeff said, the hardest part is the social network, is getting enough people to believe in what you're believing in and get everyone to action. Just walk your neighborhood, start there.
Okay. Doug?
I would only add, I think any space could become a garden, any open space, be it a yard, a lot, even a concrete, playground, anywhere like that is not being utilized, can be transformed. Beneath all of these spaces, beneath the concrete, there's earth, there's soil that is just waiting to be opened up and to sprout and for a seed to grow. And so it's I think, just as Ruby said, and just as Jeff was saying, I think, being present to those spaces throughout the community where anywhere can be transformed and turned into a garden. And I would say that, though, while we are working towards reclaiming some of these spaces that are forgotten or lost, it is also, I think, necessary to be doing the deeper systemic work, because there's no reason why people shouldn't have access to food and land. And the only reason is to keep control of the people. And that has been a centuries-old tactic of empire, of any ruling class, to keep the people away from our capacities for self-reliance. And food is primary to our existence. We need to eat, and if we don't have access to the means of good food and the means to grow that food, we are much more easily controlled. And so that is systemic. That has to come through all the means of that we are able to organize towards changing that kind of, underlying supremacy culture that is keeping us all confined, while we're also doing the work of, turning empty spaces and lots and spaces back into productive growing food and medicine.
Right, right, right. What have and I'm gonna go back and forth from Ruby to Doug, um, because I'm going because y'all have the experience. Y'all have the experience in doing this and creating these gardens and I think the information that you give to people will empower them. Um, so once you find the lot, what is the next step? Because I want to go through the steps because I want to empower people so they can have a blueprint when we have an hour for the show, but I want to try to give them a small blueprint for them to follow, and then at the end we're gonna give you information so people can contact you also. But for those who might pick this up on YouTube or watch this, down the line to get a type of blueprint. So once they find the land, right? Now they don't own the land. They might not know who owns the land. What will be their process to say, okay, I see this piece of land. Nobody's been using this land since I was a child, right? I've been walking by this lot for 30 years, right? And it hasn't changed. The same tires and the same, nobody has touched it. How do they go about, even trying to get that lot or that small piece of property to start a garden? Do they just do it themselves? Do they just go on it and start it, or is there a process?
I mean, you could guerrilla it. I don't recommend that.
Right.
But again, the nature of empire is that, particularly this era of empire, is that they love to collect data. Right? That is a big characteristic of this system that's been in place for about a couple hundred years. They love data, and so everything that can be known is strive to be known. So every lot is mapped. You will find out who owns it. If you go to your city clerk or your town hall, so for Mount Vernon, I've gone to the controller's office, city website, and look up the.
Can we change it? Can we change the topic now?
And Big Brother's watching the revolution, man.
Hell yeah.
This is crazy.
Man. Well, I think that's an excellent, for those that have been cut off since around 11:20 something from Facebook. And mind you, I'm a technician, right? So I'm well acquainted with, the audio and internet protocols and video difficulties when it comes to digital transmission. I'm not going to get off into it anyway. But the point is, obviously, we can't rely on the current technical modalities to organize our people.
No, we can't.
So I think this interruption is a good example of why we need to change our social norms back to traditional, healthy, interdependent, and speaking from an African perspective, but I know this is fairly universal, collective dynamics. So we don't operate that way anymore because there's been systemic support for individualism. But I think we're going to find quickly that, this is not sustainable. So we're going to have to get back to the earth. And as Ruby and Doug have pointed out, the people have to get back to their collective power, which stems from the earth. Cultures are based on human relationship with the earth. And regardless of how helpful Zoom and other technical methodologies might be in the 21st century, they're not going to be our saving grace.
Word.
You guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damon, you still there? I think we lost Damon.
Mm.
So I guess until Damon reconnects, I'm assuming he's there. Maybe it's an audio glitch, but you know, I think we could span into some of the more basic structural questions as to how we can make this happen, specifically in Mount Vernon. You know, Ruby, how do you? Because I know you've been here for a while, so you know, notwithstanding your tribulations with governmental forces, you know, how do you see our social and our collective potential? How, you know, how do you see, not just as an opinion-based kind of assessment, how do you see the potential now for making this happen in terms of feeding and resetting ourselves?
I mean, at the moment, it's like bittersweet, right? Because people are driven by crisis. And to me, that's an unfortunate reason to come to gardening, but I'll take it, you know, if whatever helps you focus on our food system. Um, I suppose that's the positive of it. My assessment is a little bit, you know, Doug could probably give you a better one, but my assessment is that there's something going on in the individual mind. I tend not to look at systems so much at the moment. I mean, yes, there are systems of oppression in place, but I more and more as I go farm and as I garden, I'm starting to see that the disease is within the individual, because the individual is what creates systems.
Right.
And this oppressor mind is a mind that exists in even the oppressed, right? Why can't we come together in a collective fashion? Why is it so hard to get, you know, to unite people around a certain cause that's amazingly beneficial to them? I'm trying to figure that out. Why has it been so hard in Mount Vernon to get at least 20 to 30 people to come around and work on how they obtain food within the community? And I've started to find that there's something going on in the minds of people. They're so invested in this oppressor culture that they can't. Everything I say sounds like gibberish. So, not that I've given up on adults, but my focus has been on children, right? Because their minds are still pliable. They're not fixed on certain ideas. They haven't fully internalized oppressor culture. They have to some extent, but I'm able to shift them a lot easier than I am adults. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's where I'm at, and like working on individuals and their mind state.
Mm.
You know, and then I leave others to work on the systemic issues, but we need to fight both fronts. Like,
Right.
Absolutely.
you know, what's going on in your mind, right?
And I would add to that, Ruby, like for us to think well and clearly, you know, we need good food, you know, and it's only capable to have that clarity of thought and capacity to go beyond the oppressor mindset, if we have the nourishment to do so. You know, like food feeds our bodies, yes, but it is very much a spiritual and mindful and nutrition as well. I think good food. So, you know, and so it's this circle, you know, where does it start? Like, are we growing our own food? Are we accessing good food? How are we getting that foundation so that we can build? Because what we have now is a system that, you know, is giving us food but that food is detrimental to us, to our bodies, to our minds, to our spirits. All of the food that is most accessible, especially in Black and brown neighborhoods and poor and working class neighborhoods, it is not the food that is going to help people, lift up people and help people's minds and bodies grow. It is suppressive in quality. And it is another tool of the oppressor to infiltrate poor, like really bad food into communities. It's a form of control. And so how do we bypass that? We can't rely on the government and whoever it is, the corporations, the ruling classes to feed us. There are farmers all over the country that want to grow food for the people.
Right.
If we can organize maybe buyers clubs, support group, like where we can like collectively pool our money together and buy directly from a farm, somewhere around, maybe there's steps that we can take to get good food so that we can then really build on that our thinking and mindful capacities as well.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything you said. You need the nourishment to even be sane, right? You need that nourishment. However, again, I've been doing this for a while. We've had tons and tons of conversation, me and Doug, about this. But I'm at this point in time where I am fighting for so long to get community gardens in place. I no longer look at this structure as my enemy. Right? I no longer, I've just gone beyond like looking at there's some external enemy that's like wanting control, wanting power, even though that is a reality, right? I don't think that way anymore. I think that there is no obstacle out there. The only obstacle is within me, right? My creative ability, my ability to wake up my mind. And so what I try to teach young children is there is no enemy outside. Do not be fearful of anything. You have unlimited power. So this addresses, we do need good food, but I also stress that you are beyond your physical body, that you are the embodiment of something unseen. You're the embodiment. Some people call it God, some people call it Olodumare, some people call it Allah. You have the infinite within you, so you can transcend every single thing the oppressor brings to you. You have to tap into that spiritual thing within yourself. Once you tap into that, and we've seen this historically, men and women who've tapped into their higher power be able to change the reality that they exist in. So this is something that I've seen historically done. One great person who's super spiritual that was able to do this was a man in Senegal called Sheikh Amadou Bamba during, in the 1900s under harsh French colonial rule, was able to change the reality of himself and his people around him. So while we're not getting nourished, do not let that be a limitation to you, is what I say to people. Do not let that be a limitation. And we also need nourishing foods.
Right.
And we're not going to get it unless we grow it. Even if there was a farm that could give it to us, we are African people, and there are specific foods, like Dr. Sebi says, and other like nutritionists from the Black community say, there are specific foods that are for the Black genetics. Right? This is a controversial statement because Western science would say, "Oh, that's." Can I curse on here? No, I'm not gonna curse. But that's what I'm talking about. But there's specific food for us, and we're not getting it unless we grow it. We're not gonna get it.
Right.
So that's all I got to say on that one.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. And I said it many times on other shows, and I talked about it. If we don't come out of this thinking differently as a people, or I mean, it's showing us that we have to change, our dietary lifestyle, right? We have to change how we look at food. We have to recognize, as Doug said, like, people are doing this for a reason. There's fast food restaurants, all over poor communities, for a reason. They make fast food cheaper than fresh vegetables, right? I mean, and we also have a culture, we have systems pushing down on the people that it's easier to go and get two Happy Meals because you don't have enough time to cook a meal, because you're working two or three jobs, so so these systems is working against what we're trying to do and what other people, what y'all guys are trying to do, what everybody's trying to do, but we have to reteach, parents, that no, don't go to McDonald's, cook something fresh, for your child. And even studies have shown that, kids that grow up vegan have higher IQs than people that eat meat. I'm not pushing the whole vegan thing, but even if you're just eating more fruits and vegetables and eating more right foods, your body responds better. And it's going to be a fight. It's still going to be a fight. And as you see with this COVID-19, it's a fight now to get fresh foods in the communities, and we're still going to have to fight. Back to it's so many. I'm amazed that there's so many technical issues in talking about community gardens. I've done shows, but this show, man, and Facebook has really been giving me trouble today. But and it's crazy, I think when we talk about starting to heal ourselves through the Mother Earth, these systems have a problem with it, even Facebook, because we're talking about changing the dynamics, on how we see ourselves. And quick now, for those who watching, and I know we got off the second part. I want to, once you identify the property, you deal with the politics, right? Do you just go to Home Depot and get some seeds, or do you link up with someone, or do how does that happen? How does that happen for the average person? For the average person, Ruby or Douglas, whoever wants to go first.
Ruby, you want to take that?
No, Doug is no. You take it, Doug. This is your.
I would say don't go to Home Depot, please. Don't go to Home Depot, but I know that's like again strategically easier for a lot of us to go to Home Depot. But I think the seeds are the most important thing, and Ruby can really, I think, speak to the importance of seeds. A good seed determines the rest of that plant's life, and so if you're starting with a seed that is coming from a mother plant that was not well taken care of, that had chemicals sprayed on it, or was packed into a didn't get enough sunlight, the genetics of that seed are going to carry to that new seed, from that mother plant to the new seed. And a lot of those seeds that we get at these stores like Home Depot and places are seeds from mother plants that were not well taken care of. And so starting off, we already have like a limitation put on what the potential of that plant will be to feed us from that initial seed. And so I say that because seeds, it's not just a packet of seeds. A seed is the most important thing in the world. And I think we're seeing that, you know, in all of the ways that the seed industry and the pharmaceutical industry is taking over indigenous ways of seed keeping all over the world.
Mhm.
If we preserve the seed and we plant a good seed, the potential of that plant to manifest its giving capacity is that much better than anything that we could buy in a little packet. And so I think, you know, seed savers, people, you know, putting it out there. I think, you know, one good thing about the social media thing is that there is some like connected groups around neighborhoods, cities where, you know, I can post on. There's this thing called Nextdoor up, you know, where I live,
Right.
on the internet, and I can say, does anybody have any seeds, or is anybody saving seed? If I'm not doing it myself. So saved seed is the best, I would say, because when one saves seed, there's savings. So from a tomato plant, you save like the best looking tomato plant, the healthiest looking tomato plant, and you take a fruit when it's mature, and you save the seeds from that fruit, and the seeds of that are going to be convey the genetic potential of that mother plant. Um, I like to say sometimes that like a tomato plant has from a seed has a genetic potential to grow hundreds of pounds of tomatoes on one plant. But we never see that because when we plant a seed that might not be good, that plant and put that plant through all kinds of stress when it grows up, you know, not giving enough water, not enough sunlight, you know, air pollution limits the potential of that seed. So if we start with a good seed and take care of that plant, we could, you know, there could be hundreds of pounds of tomatoes coming off of one plant in one place, you know, and imagine that, like, if we could be filling these spaces with healthy plants, you know, we don't need a lot of room. We just need to like start with a good seed and take care of those plants really well, and they will grow for us.
No, wait. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
hold on, Doug. Latanya, I'm looking. He's not talking about seeds as in sexual seeds. He's talking about seeds as in planting seeds. She's-
Sorry if I wasn't making that clear.
yeah. She's-
It's the same idea, same concept.
Yeah.
He's talking about putting seeds in the ground to grow vegetables, fruit, and vegetables with time.
Sorry.
Oh, she said, I know. Oh.
Where's your mind at, damn it?
Well, I mean, although, well, I love maybe I just read a comment wrong. I don't know. Generational author thought he spoke about generational curses. I was like, wait, how did that? Okay, all right.
I'll give a few places to buy seed too.
Okay.
If you can't save it, there's the Hudson Valley Seed Library, which is in New York. It's a regional seed bank. Fruition Seeds, which is also in New York. True Love Seeds. There's a bunch of others, but when we're planting seeds, it's a good thing to be planting seeds that are endemic, that are like grown in this region, because there's a relationship between seeds and soil that,
Okay.
and so when we plant a seed that was grown in, you know, in this bioregion, that seed's going to remember how like best to access nutrition and grow itself because it has an ancestral connection to this land.
Okay.
So regional, bioregional seeds, and Ruby can give more on those, but
Ruby just popped out. Ruby just popped out. But hey, it's Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob. Yo, your mic's still not working, Bob. Your mic is still not working, bro. Check your input. Check your input, Bob. Check your input. You gotta check your input. Check your input, man. You gotta check your input. But yeah, where was we at? Because So yeah, she basically said, Latanya basically said the same thing. If the origin of the seed is damaged, then the seed, then that seed will be damaged, and that's correct. And that's correct. When we get to maintaining the garden, talk about that process for the average person maintaining the garden.
Ruby's not here, right?
No,
All right.
hold on. Let me scroll.
I
No,
see.
no,
Oh,
there's probably a delay.
oh, her image froze on the B Live.
Yeah, then she's gonna go. Yeah, because she's gone. She's gone unless she's trying to come back in.
Okay.
But go ahead, Doug.
All right.
Oh man, Jeff just gone. Jeff just. They're
Next.
knocking us off slow.
Oh no.
They're knocking us off slow, and
Oh,
Bob's
shit.
mic don't work. Like Bob
Oh,
is
God.
here, and his damn mic don't work.
Oh no. Oh, there's Bob.
Yeah, but his mic. Hold on, somebody just came back. Jeff just came back. Yeah, there you are. There you are. But Bob is in the room, but his mic don't work. No. But well, go ahead, Doug, while Bob figures out what's going on. Man.
All right. I'm sorry for the difficulties.
That's all right, man.
So maintaining if you plant, so turning the soil, there's a couple ways to start. If you have the ability to expose and turn soil, I think that you can do that. I prefer to use the ground usually that is there rather than bring in soil. But in a lot of places, the soil that's there in place, because of the industrial kind of histories of a lot of spaces, and particularly in urban spaces, there could be contamination from lead or other heavy metals in soil. So if you're going to be growing in soil, in the native soil there, taking a soil test to test specifically for heavy metals, I think, is an important thing. Because lead has, if soil is contaminated with lead, the food that is grown there could contain lead, and lead has a lot of, potential impacts on on our minds and our brains, especially of children. So just doing that, making sure, if you're turning the soil,
Okay.
if your soil is contaminated, you can bring in soil, topsoil and compost from somewhere, to do that. And we can go, maybe there's another time we can go technically into how to actually build a garden, but I think the steps are to prepare the soil, to plant the seed, the plant. And I try to push you to cover the soil with something. I think one of the easiest things that we can do to preserve and build soil is to make sure that it's covered. If we think about exposed places of soil where we see somewhere a native ecosystem like a forest or a prairie, you never see exposed soil where there is a disturbance, right? If a tree fell and brought up soil, or if there's a clear cut or something. And what happens when there's a disturbance and soil is exposed, the land, the earth, Mama Earth is going to cover that wound. Opening soil is an open wound, like just our skin, and our bodies heal that wound by creating a scab, and then it can heal. Mama Earth does that.
Oh, okay.
It gave me a countdown, and I went live, but your Facebook is still interrupted.
Yeah. It should be a new feed. It should be a new feed coming up.
Yeah, people are gonna have to keep refreshing.
Yeah.
So this is par for the course, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah.
We just got to keep pushing.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, brother. You know, it is what it is. Um, Doug, man, you know, you was on a roll with that, man. With what you were saying, um, it's going to be a continuous struggle, and I never thought that, you know, talking about vegetables will be so revolutionary. You know, um, you know, seriously, man. I really, I really didn't think about that. You know, and and I had made a quote. You know, the most revolutionary thing a person can do is eat fruits and vegetables. But I didn't know talking about it openly would scare so many people. Um, that they will actually get scared that people will actually eat fruits and vegetables. You know, But what one day, brother, and if Ruby comes back in, I didn't see her pop in yet. I guess when she saw that Facebook, she said, "The hell with it, man." I wanna come down with you and Ruby and just go into a community garden and record so people can see it. You know, so we can have this, we can have this conversation so people can actually see what it's about. Um, because I think it's needed. I think we really need to start pushing it.
Yeah.
And hooking up with some farmers, whether it's New York or down south, and try to create commerce ourselves. Try to create commerce ourselves. And that's the whole thing, man. And anybody, I just want to throw this out there. I'm like amazed that the United States of America cannot put together a group of trucks and trailers to get these vegetables that these people are throwing out. I really think that they're trying to kill people. Anybody want to stand on that? Because I really think they're trying to kill people. Because it's like, when you see it on the news, right, and you're seeing these people turning over back into the ground all these fruits and vegetables because they can't get trucks to come get it, to take it. And then when you look in Houston and you look at all these other cities and the line just to get a small bag of vegetables the parking lot is full.
Right.
Like where is our consciousness and Ruby's back in, and where is our spirituality? Where's our spirituality? AJ, I'm gonna hide.
Let me say one thing real quick, and then y'all can take me off. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, AJ.
It's crazy what you were talking about as far as they, it being a threat to other people. It actually is, because the more people you get eating fresh fruits and vegetables, they're eating a lot less of the other things that they're eating now, and you're actually shutting down other corporations, other industries. You understand what I'm saying? It's a threat. The same way with, when they say everything we talk about is pro-black, they say we're anti this, anti this. You know what I'm saying? We're not anti anything. We're just pro this. But the more you get people eating fruits and vegetables and stop eating fast food and all the other stuff, you're shutting down other industries that are making millions and millions of dollars off our people. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, while that is healthy for you, it's dangerous to their way of life. So they want to shut that down so they can continue to do business as usual. It's a threat. It literally is a threat to their industry. And you have to look at it like that. You have to understand that that's what you're doing. While you're promoting good health, you're shutting down other industries that have been making millions and millions of dollars off our communities for years. And that is a threat to their way of life. And they're not going to go down quietly. And they have millions and millions of dollars to spend on advertising and other things to shut you down. You understand what I'm saying? And so, yeah, you literally, what you were talking about the threat, I wanted to just comment on that. This literally is a threat to them.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing, man. And Let me bring. Let me bring.
Yeah, let her in. I don't have to be on.
Thank you, AJ.
All right, all right. Ruby's back. Thank you, thank you. What I'm gonna have to piece. I'm gonna piece all this together from the program and make it one big show. But once I guess they Ruby, I was telling Doug, once I guess they let up on the restrictions, and hopefully we have nice weather when they decide to lift some of these restrictions. I want to come out in the street with you with my camera and show the people, what a garden looks like and how we take control of our community through community gardens, and discussing and empowering our people through the food we eat, and empowering them to create some type of this also could be commerce for the community. I mean, there's so many things that people can do, and I was telling Doug I wanted to reach out. I was after this show, my next show. I was reaching out to the Black Farmers Association, seeing if I could get somebody from there to talk about how do we get their produce in distressed communities, and see what are their ideas in doing it here in Westchester. So I wanted to do that. Would be my next when talking about gardens. Ruby, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just speak to? I just caught the tail end of something the brother was saying about if we start to eat fruits and vegetables, that's a threat to big industry or big
Right.
food. I just want to say this is the thinking that I've started to shift away from, that there is no enemy, right? They've never been the food industry, right? Being their tactics. Don't look at them as in a fearful way, or they're going to come at us with this, they're going to come at us with that. The thing that you have to fear is yourself. At this point in time, everybody knows that a chicken nugget is not good. It's not good for you. We know this. We know
It ain't even chicken.
We know what's good for you. We know a lot. The average person knows that eating that piece of fast food is not healthy, but we don't fear ourselves enough. We don't check our internal mind state enough. Like, we keep externalizing the fear. Like, oh no, the big industry, the advertising, none of that can touch you if you can control yourself. And that's like what I want to start teaching children and adults in some way, is that it is yourself that you have to check. Like, they will, you all around. And this is what there's a story about this a character called Shaitan, right? Or in the Christian pantheon, that would be Satan. The thing is that this character cannot actually do anything to you. They actually cannot do anything to you. It can just whisper in your ear. It can make suggestions to you, right? You can take on those suggestions, and you, with your own hand, you do the evil. All it can do is whisper to you. It can say, "Oh, look at that! Oh, a triple burger, beef, da 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 da." It will whisper to you, but you have the control, right? So I really want people to stop explaining and realize that you're doing it to yourself, and it's hard to hear that. You know what I mean? It's hard to hear that. The slave trade, yes, that was unfortunate. It was horrific. But it began because we listened to a whisper, right? And we made decisions for our people that were not right.
Right. You're absolutely right. So in closing, in closing, Ruby, just let everybody, if they want to get in touch with you, how to get in touch with you, because we definitely, I'm definitely gonna have your guys back on the show. Hopefully, this thing, we get around this whole restriction thing, and we can hit the streets. We can hit the streets and show people what it's like. But until then, Ruby, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
You can email me
Mhm.
at Ruby the Wiz, like that show with Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, The Wiz. Just put my name in front of it. Ruby the Wiz.
Okay.
RUBYTHEWIZ @gmail.com.
Okay, great. Douglas?
Yeah, email or phone number. My phone is 914-494-6986. And my email is dougdecandia@gmail.com. Again, if anybody wants help growing, like actually working a space and getting a space ready and prepared and to be a garden, please reach out to me, and we can coordinate with other people. And like there are a lot of people that want to be helping folks build gardens right now. So I think there's a network that's growing. So if you're interested, you could reach out to me in either of those ways.
Yeah. Jeff?
Yeah, I don't have any public communication, but I do want to thank you. I mean, I'm everybody knows how to find me. But more importantly, I'm gonna definitely stay in touch with Ruby and Doug and Barry too. He's not in this discussion in particular, but we have so much knowledge around here, and organizational potential in our community. I'll be definitely. Oh, and I forgot to shout out Brother Lat, who's very motivated around the same issue. Lat George is out there. So we have people who know how to prepare, and people who know, as Malcolm X said, that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. So, let's go get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, this is it, man. This is it. And, we're here to get the information across. Whatever y'all guys want to get out to the people, don't hesitate to text me, get at me. We'll definitely, and we're going to continue this. We're going to continue this conversation as we get closer to being free to go outside. We're going to hit the streets, man, and talk about this more. I think is a very important issue, not only for Black Westchester, but plantbasedpower.org to really push community gardens. And I think it's great. And I want to thank your guys. For coming, man. I definitely appreciate it. And for all those who are watching, I want to thank everybody. I definitely want to thank everybody for checking us out. Next, we won't be on next. We won't be on next Saturday. We'll be on the Saturday after, and our guest will be Plant-Based Jeff, living a plant-based lifestyle. Plant-Based Jeff. He sells his own sea moss and great stuff. I was supposed to bring down an empty because I ate all the sea moss, so I was going to bring down an empty bottle for the show, Jeff. But May 9th, Saturday, 11 a.m. right here, we're gonna have Plant-Based Jeff talking about his transition into living a plant-based lifestyle and the great benefits of sea moss. So until then, everybody has a blessed day and see you later.
What kind of food do you eat? You say soul food? Was that the food of African people? Slave food. The food that we find most satisfying. The food that we find that sticks to our ribs. The food that we call down home. A food that we learn to eat in the quarters. And yet we dare say that we have escaped slavery, that we have nothing to do with those people back there, that was back there. When our whole very social life and social relationships, our very definition of ourselves as a people, our very attempt to commune with ourselves is mediated by the food of slaves. We have not escaped it at all, but it is time for us to change the slave consciousness. Our social life and social relationships, our very definition of ourselves as a people, our very attempt to commune with ourselves is mediated by the food of slaves. We have not escaped it at all, but it is time for us to change the slave consciousness.